We begin with a battle between second and first as Coventry City won 4-2 away at Middlesbrough. Coventry were 2-0 up, and then Boro got it back to 2-2, and then 2 goals from Coventry won it for them late on. An incredible game, Justin.
Yeah, it was a proper championship slug match. Great goals, great play, big moments. It ticked all the boxes you need. The midweek has just had this unbridled recipe for chaos. And this is why we love this league. It was perfect, superb, love it.
Yeah. Well, this was an absolute cracker, wasn't it? And if you cast your mind back to a meeting between the top 2 last season, Burnley v Leeds, that may have been one of the worst games I've ever witnessed in my entire life. This season, this meeting between the top 2 certainly delivered on the entertainment front. It had a bit of everything, didn't it? Including an absolute peach by Ellis Sims. As the head peach, Justin Peach, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I thought first I thought it was a cross, then I thought it took a deflection. Then the third viewing confirmed it was just a sublime execution of a lofted shot. I mean, the audacity for Ellis Sims to try that in that position, it was just brilliant. But it was incredible. And look, I thought his career at Coventry was on a downward trend, but his form since Portsmouth away has been good. And the games he started, the last few games he started, he's been brilliant. So that goal is just a reminder that he is very capable at this level. Obviously, we all knew it. We all saw it when he was on loan at Sunderland from Everton a few years ago. But that goal was just, wow, Ellis Sims has got ability.
Yeah, having seen Ellis Sims a fair bit over the past couple of years, I have had some reservations over whether he meant that shot to go as well as it did. Hey. But it did dip so perfectly under the bar, didn't it? It was genuinely unsavable. And yeah, you talk about how he has struggled in a Coventry shirt. He has found form this season, hasn't he? Last season, it looked as if Frank Lampard wasn't a particularly big fan of his. Confidence low, but he's taken his chance since Haji Wright got injured and looks to be enjoying himself again, which is great to see. Bobby Thomas definitely wasn't enjoying himself after that own goal, though, was he? Which I still can't really work out how he got it so wrong, Justin.
He's been one of the best defenders this season, and whoever you support, even from a Coventry point of view, you should find this own goal really, really funny, because it's not like he doesn't even adjust his feet. He just, I don't know, it feels like he's just reacted 10 minutes late. And it's like, oh shit, the ball's just dropped. Oh, okay. Goal. Damn. Yeah. Like, it was so bizarre, but really, really funny at the same time.
Yeah, I genuinely cannot work out how he's done that. It was like a proper five-a-side goal, wasn't it, from someone who's not very capable with their feet. So where this came from one of the best defenders in the Championship this season was, pretty crazy. But that was the equaliser to make it 2-2. And it was anyone's guess how the game was going to pan out from there. It probably should have gone Middlesbrough's way, because Tommy Conway missed a massive chance in the 75th minute when the scores were still level. Simply has to score. And then Coventry made him pay with 2 late goals. Cube crazy limbs in the away ends. And it's now 10 wins in 11 for Coventry. And most importantly, they're now 10 points clear at the top of the Championship table. It's the biggest ever gap at the top at this stage of a Championship season. The previous biggest was 6, which was by Wigan in 2004-05 and Wolves in 08-09. That's how big a gap we're talking here, Justin. Unprecedented levels of gap.
Oh yeah, that 04-05 Wigan team. Any chance to get that one in, Ryan? It gets me going, I tell you. It gets me going. But 10 points, yeah, it's astonishing, isn't it? At this stage of the season, I think it speaks volumes of the competitors around Coventry pushing them. Coventry have been brilliant and consistent so far this season, but that gap shows you that there's just not enough happening to push them. But it doesn't matter, because they're pushing themselves at the moment, and their own worst enemy at times as well, which is kind of ironic. But I do still think they're going to face stern tests this season, but that cushion they've created has been developed by this unwavering belief that they can win games no matter the circumstances. They went 2-0 down at the weekend, they came back and won it. They went 2-0 up, got pegged back and won this game. You know, they've been punched in many different ways, but the way they get up off the canvas to go again is really,
like Tyson
really exceptional.
Fury.
Well, The Middlesbrough game was more Tyson Fury, the one who punched himself in the face. The West Brom game was Tyson Fury doing the Undertaker.
Yeah, the Deontay Wilder one, where it looked for all intents and purposes like he was gone and then suddenly rose up from the dead. It was superb. Yeah, but Coventry, look, they have without a doubt been the best team this season. That's absolutely undeniable. But I keep saying it, they have been riding their luck over the last 7 or 8 games. In this game against Boro, if Tommy Conway puts away that chance, I don't think Coventry win this. The same goes with the game at the weekend. If Jason Malumbi doesn't get sent off, I think that's a very different game. Stoke missed some big chances against them just before the international break. I could go on and single out pretty much every game since essentially the Blackburn game 8 games ago, really, because they have had a bit of fortune in most games since then. But ultimately, does it really matter? Because they keep winning through hell or high water. This team finds a way, and that's all that matters. The main reason for that is because they are a relentless goal-scoring machine. They've scored fewer than 2 goals in just 4 of their 17 championship games this season. That is insane, Justin. That is why they're the top scorers ever at this stage of a championship season. And that's also why it doesn't really matter if they have been a bit shaky at the back recently. And they've scored all those goals despite players missing at various stages as well. So we can sit here and pick holes all we want, Justin. We've certainly tried for many weeks now. And I know we're only just a third of the way through the season, but Coventry are surely going up. At the very least, aren't they?
It's hard to make an argument against that, but I will say this, and it's probably more on the point that you were making. I think defensively, I'm starting to see a little bit more vulnerability. There's a lot more surfacing over the past few games.
As I say, though, does it matter, Justin, when they just keep scoring goals for fun? They can concede as many as they want. They outscore teams every time.
You are right, and you said this about Ipswich a couple of years ago when they went up, when they did the double promotion. And you're absolutely bang on. They can just keep outscoring opponents. Squad depth becomes an interesting question at some point, but they've handled that test this season so far when, as you're right, it's been out of form or injured. Ellie Sims has stepped up. Jack Redoni's been out. Victor Torp has been exceptional. Josh Eccles has stepped in, etc. They've managed the squad problem quite nicely. But since that win over Watford, out of possession, they've looked quite passive at times. And they've been done on the turnover in several games, including Wrexham, West Brom and Middlesbrough. They are affording opposition chances. And I think sooner or later that does catch up. Whether or not it's enough to stop them from going up is another question, but it will impact results. And this isn't a criticism.
Yeah, as I say, we can point that we can punch holes into Coventry as much as possible, but a 10-point gap is just absolutely obscene, isn't it? The only thing I would say is a big reason why there is a 10-point gap is because of the rest of the division, right? No one else has been consistent. Summed up perfectly by the fact that Middlesbrough are joint second despite winning just 3 and 11. But I look at Birmingham, Southampton, Ipswich to a lesser extent. They look like they may finally have figured out what they're doing. So if 2 of those 3 can go on a mad run, then it may not be as straightforward as it's starting to look for Coventry. Because, as I say, there's still a long way to go. But, yeah, a 10-point gap is ludicrous. And we'll need Coventry to have quite the drop-off in their own right for them not to go up. Let's talk Middlesbrough, Justin, because they've now confirmed the appointment of Kim Hellberg as their new manager from Hammarby. If you want to know our thoughts about that, go back and listen to last week's episode where we discussed him at length. He was unveiled before this game. Not like he had a big blanket over his head and then
Santi Cazorla unveil.
Yeah, not that kind of unveiling. But he wasn't in charge for this one. What do you think he would have made of Boro watching this game, Justin?
I think he would have been impressed with it, because if you go toe-to-toe with the team that are top of the league and as good as Coventry are or have been this season, then you're going to be impressed. And obviously, you mentioned it already, but if that Tommy Conway chance goes in, I think Boro take control of the game thereafter. So there was a lot of positives. I mean, there wasn't much control in the game from either side, but it was one of those strange games that, yeah, both sides just punched the hell out of each other. And you know what? Fair enough. As a neutral, we love it. But I think other than Wrexham, Boro have asked more questions of Coventry than anyone else this season. And we can remind ourselves how good Coventry have been this season, and Boro pushed them. They pushed them really, really hard. Some great creative play as well. So I think he'll look positive at the defeat and go, actually, no, I've got a fair bit to work with here, because it could have been a game where Middlesbrough sat in shape, made it difficult for Coventry, and Coventry ended up winning 2-0 comfortably. But it didn't. They went after them. And if Kim Hellberg wants to play an attacking style of play, he'll look at that and go, okay, cool, I like this.
Yeah, I think he would have been pleased with what he saw as well, because he's seen his new team go very much toe-to-toe with top of the league, and perhaps should have won it if Tommy Conway had his shooting boots on for that one chance. It does surprise me that Boro have only won 3 in 11, because the vibes I've been getting haven't really indicated that's the form that they're at. They've just been steadily going along, haven't they? It's pretty clear the attack is the main issue. None of the new signings from the summer have got going, and chance creation has been pretty low all season. So we'll see whether Hellberg can improve that. It's good that Eddie Vivesh will still be around, because he's done a great job in keeping the club united after Rob Edwards ditched them, the rat. That's it. That's good to see that he's going to be hanging around. But Hellberg's first game in charge is at home to Derby this weekend, and Derby never win there, so that should be an easy 3 points. There was a meeting between two relegated sides at St Mary's, but it was Southampton who made it 4 wins on the bounce by beating 10-man Leicester 3-0. Southampton were 2-0 up when the sending off happened in the 33rd minute for Badia Luco, and that ultimately killed this one as a contest. But the Saints go marching on, Justin.
They are, and things feel so good. Alan Shields' level of interim head coaching here, it's just incredible. But they were great. They were well in control. They were threatening when they were turning possession over. It's been superb, and obviously being a danger from set pieces as well. Taylor Howard-Bellis, who's only 5'11", getting a couple from set pieces is magical stuff and really good coaching. But Tonda Eckert, I know I threw a lot of scepticism at him during the international break, but when you're winning games this comfortably, and that QPR game, his first game, was the outlier where they weren't great, but they steadily improved. Well, no, they improved in the following game, and then they were brilliant against Charlton. And then this was as professional as you could possibly get as a championship performance. A 3-0 win and a clean sheet. It's really good stuff.
Why do you have to shame Taylor Harwood-Bellis about his height? By the way, I've just gone on Wikipedia. It says he's 6'2", so where have you got 5'11"?
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Either way, I don't see why his height is relevant. 5'11".
It's hard being small and attacking set pieces. Come on.
Well, 6'2" is definitely not small, but there you go. He's going out with someone famous, isn't he, Taylor Harwood-Bellis?
Roy Keane's daughter, I think.
Yes, that sounds right. That's a father-in-law from hell, isn't it? But yeah, it was a very classy performance from Saints. Before the red card, Leicester were well in the game, don't get me wrong, and the red card made it a lot easier for Southampton. But they are full of confidence and full of goals all of a sudden, when they definitely weren't, with Will still in charge at the start of the month. But yeah, they're so full of goals. Even Taylor Harwood-Bellis is scoring doubles from set pieces. And this is against Leicester, by the way, who had conceded one set-piece goal all season. And the second goal as well, which wasn't a set piece, was very nice. The ball by Adam Armstrong in the build-up was beautiful. But the other thing is, it's a clean sheet. Only their third in the league this season, admittedly against 10 men. So yeah, it's looking very good for Southampton at both ends of the pitch. And Tonda Eckert, the interim manager, who I assume is going to be made the permanent manager, has truly turned things around. Before he came in, Southampton had only won 4 league games since they won the playoff final in May 2024. Now he's matched that tally in his 4 games in charge. Incredible stuff, Peachy.
They've not been killing opposition in possession. They haven't. They've only averaged 51%, but they have this greater control in the game because there's a better drilling out of possession, that they're just looking comfortable. They're looking comfortable and confident. They become more clinical, more dangerous, and the balance is there. I think Tonda Eckert has simplified their approach to games. The instructions are obviously clearer and less complicated. So there's a lot to like here. But their defensive work in recent weeks is probably the thing that's impressed me, because they've always been a good attacking side this season. It's just been trying to get them clinical. That's happening now. But also their work out of possession is just shutting opposition down. Because Leicester, I know they were down to 10 men for 60 minutes of this game, but they offered nothing. And they have individuals to hurt anyone in this league. We saw that the weekend with Steffi Mavididi, but Southampton shut it down.
Yeah, And the man hasn't even got a Wikipedia page, Justin, which I think makes this whole thing all the more remarkable. But the truth is, I don't think Eckert's changed an awful lot. Tactically, at least, anyway. He's playing 3-4-3, which is what Will Still predominantly went with. He's still very possession heavy. The biggest tactical changes he's made has been putting Tom Fellows at right wing back, usually a winger, but he's been phenomenal since moving there, and putting Gavin Bazunu back in goal over Alex McCarthy because Bazunu's a lot better with his feet. Otherwise, Eckert has come in and he's not exactly reinvented the wheel here. The main difference is he's put some belief back in the players and they love playing under him. You've had, over the past few days, Casper Yander, Leo Cienza and Taylor Harwood-Bellis all singing his praises. What that says about Will Still, I don't know. But Eckert's got them enjoying their football again and the results are there to see. They've scored the same amount of goals in 4 games under him than they did in 13 games under Will Still. And I mean, that's astonishing. And look, when Eckert took over, Southampton were 21st, 10 points off the top 6. They're now only 2 points off the top 6 and only 6 points off the automatics, Justin.
Yeah. Not going to rule it out. There's no point. There's no point because this season, there's a lot possible with this season. And Southampton being in a position to be automatic promotion contenders at this point, despite the position they were in just a couple of weeks ago, it shows you that anything is a possibility at this point. But there is more than enough football to be played where there's more than enough time for things to go wrong again for Southampton. I think that's the caveat you need to throw in. They've been on this really good run under Eckert. It could easily be 4 straight defeats in the next few games because that's just how the Championship is. And we don't know how fragile this Southampton team is yet because they need to take a serious blow for us to really lose. They need a Millwall at home where Millwall score with 1 shot on target and they end up losing because that will send everyone into a fit of rage and frustration and confidence zapping mindset. But that's what I mean. They need to deal with those before we can really start to get convinced. But if you're going to do it in any season, it's going to be this one because everything's so congested.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely true. But the way they're playing right now under Eckert, you can't rule anything out, can you? One final thing I think that's always worth bearing in mind is Eckert's 32. He's the youngest Championship manager ever. So for him to produce what we're seeing is remarkable at such a young age. It's not going so remarkably for Leicester City. It's 3 wins in 13 now for them. Now, we should say they were heading into this off the back of back-to-back wins and were down to 10 men for nearly an hour here. So we shouldn't lose our rag. But I continue to not be full of hope for Leicester City, Justin, put it that way.
It's just Marty Cifuentes is overly cautious. And with that, I think they're just a little bit flat and they lack imagination, especially in these games where they need to be a little bit out of themselves. If you look at the set pieces, they scored just 5 all season. That was a big thing under Cifuentes at QPR. They were so effective from them. Obviously, defending them's fine, apart from in this game, where they let little old Taylor get on twice. But there's just so much that needs sorting. I know it was a tricky game, especially away, but you'd have thought the confidence from the win against Stoke at the weekend would have carried them over. They just looked vulnerable and non-existent going forwards. It just felt like as soon as the second goal goes in and they're down to 10, the white flag goes up. That's where you need a little bit of belief, a little bit of mentality to come into your players, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. They're only 3 points off the top 6, it's worth bearing in mind, so everything can change very quickly with them. But I mentioned they got back-to-back wins either side of the international break. One was last weekend against Stoke, where I would definitely say the better team lost. And then the other one was against Norwich, who A, basically self-imploded in that game, and B, are shit. So I don't take away a huge boatload of positivity from those 2 games. And yeah, whenever I see Leicester play, they are very negative. They may be the most negative side I've seen in the Championship in comparison to how talented their squad is, because it is a talented squad, even if they did have to draft in an academy player against Southampton. But they play like a team who are aiming for a mid-table finish when they shouldn't be. Before the game kicked off, they'd have been delighted. It seemed like before the game, they would have been delighted with a point. And even though Southampton have been in great form, admittedly, they're not Pep's Barcelona. But look, I haven't been impressed with Leicester all season. I've seen very little improvement. And based off what I'm reading online, I don't think there'll be many Leicester fans disagreeing with me on that, because a lot of them are calling for Cifuentes to go, even though results haven't necessarily been that bad. But they could tell, performance-wise, it should be a hell of a lot better. Justin, may I take this opportunity to point everyone in the direction of the latest video on the Second Tier YouTube channel? It's the story of one Jordan Ibe. Once upon a time, he was being called the next Raheem Sterling and cost £15 million, but fell out of love with football at the age of just 24 and hasn't played a game above non-league level in just about 5 years now. And we, of course, saw Jordan Ibe in action when he was on loan at Derby many moons ago, Justin. What a player he was. And I think he was only 18 at the time.
Yeah, he was just 18. He was great. He was incredible. I think him being recalled that January was one of the key instigators in Derby's awful downfall that season, where they were top of the league at one stage and they obviously fall out of the playoffs and ended up finishing 8th. So him being recalled was, devastating to lose that side, and he was great. But I think his story's fascinating. He's incredibly brave, and I do think the work that he's done in being so open about his mental health is he's had way more of an impact, I think, than things that he's done on the pitch. He should be seen as someone who's I wouldn't say pioneer, but someone who speaks so openly about his mental health is very rare. So it's great. I cover that at great length in the video. It's a great story and deserves to be recognised. Just how brave he has been over the years, and also just looking at why his career hasn't panned out exactly how he would have hoped. Second Tier YouTube channel. Go and watch that right now. Let's get back onto some of the midweek action, Justin. And it's been an interesting few days for Sheffield United. We'll get on to a bizarre story shortly, but they followed up victory in the Steel City derby with a 3-0 win at home to 10-man Portsmouth. Pompey had Terry Devlin sent off in the 39th minute after he handled the ball on the line, and you could see he instantly knew he fucked up, Justin. Yeah, we've all been there though, haven't we? It's instinctive. It's instinctive, isn't it? But I'll be honest, I was disappointed with it because at first glance, it doesn't look like it's come off his hand. I think he could have got away with it if he hadn't looked so guilty. He was immediately like, "Oh, I've done something bad here." In those situations, you've got to be confident with it, right? You've got to really sell it. So when I don't pay for my bags at the supermarket, I don't walk off with my hands on my face.
Imagine if you did.
I don't have an immediate look of guilt. You've got to sell it, Terry. You've got to sell it, and he didn't. Come on.
Hands on your head as you're walking out the shop. That's just a very funny image. I think you may be doing the referee a disservice, because I think he would have spotted that.
No, sell it.
Quite clearly came off his arm. When you've got Luis Suarez stopping a certain goal in the 121st minute of extra time in a World Cup quarter-final, it made sense because it was essentially the last kick of the game. When you do it with more than half the game to go, it's a bad decision, Terry. And look, I know he had literally a microsecond to think about it, but it just quite clearly wasn't worth it, because 1-0 down with 11 men and 45 minutes to go. That's fine, but 10 men is obviously a very different story. We have got to remember as well, this is a big game between two struggling sides, so a huge result for the Blades, this one, Justin.
Yeah, massive. And I think it felt like a positive, confident display. There was a scenario towards the end of the game that comes into my brain a little bit, where Gus Hamer misses a chance and he just gets up laughing and smiling. Now, I know they had a decent lead by this point, but I think it just shows a shift in feeling around the club. They're not quite back, but everything's being lifted. That pressure, that tension, because you really have to go back to May. This has been a disastrous 6 or 7 months for anyone associated with Sheffield United, from losing the playoff final the way they did, the summer they had, sacking Wilder, it not going well in the Championship, bringing him back. It's been sad. It's been crap. So I think actually the players just having smiles on their faces when they're playing, and even after the game against Sheffield Wednesday, it's massive. Patrick Bamford coming in, he's been speaking so well in the media. Then there's obviously the derby win, the celebrations after that. There's just a lot of positivity seeping through the club, which actually I think this win probably exemplifying that and putting the magnifying glass on it is probably the bigger thing here than actually the 3 points, because it just shows you that maybe the confidence is coming back into these players, which once it's there, it'll be hard to stop them. It really will.
Yeah. Well, they're on top for the 40 minutes leading up to the red card. Unsurprisingly, after that, it was pretty much plain sailing. How different things would have been without the red, I don't know, but they got the job done very comprehensively, which they definitely haven't done on many occasions this season. And yeah, you mentioned Patrick Bamford getting on the score sheet, his first goal since April last year. And the Sheffield United fans were once again singing Wilder is a wanker. So it looks like this may be a regular thing now, Justin, which I'm definitely not against.
It's a good way of coming up with a transfer player. It's proper cult hero stuff. Because you singing Wilder as a wanker is certainly, it's for Patrick Bamford. Who knew? You're going to have to explain that one to your American hosts, I imagine, because they're not going to get it, are they? So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, but it's like in WWE. Do you remember Kurt Angle?
Yeah.
The fans used to regularly chant "You suck" to him, and he used to genuinely hate it, but over time he realised that it was endearment towards him. This is kind of the same, because I can't think of any other fans chanting about their own manager being a wanker, but it's good stuff, and it's just great banter, Justin, all the way around. But yeah, Gustavo Harmer scored a screamer in this one. He started the last couple of games on the bench after coming back from injury, so it'll be interesting to see if he comes back into the United team soon. Ultimately, it was a great evening for the Blades. Got to be said, Portsmouth now 20th, just 4 points from an available 21 for them. That's concerning. But Sheffield United now out of the bottom three with this win for just the second time this season. So could they finally be starting to click, Peachy? Yeah,
but we're starting to see that confidence and swagger back. And I think the smiles being everywhere, it doesn't feel like the world's ending. It is important, but there is still such a long way to go. I've said it with Southampton, and it's the same with Sheffield United. There's still more that can go wrong, but the 2 wins that they've got, the 2 clean sheets, is all you can ask for. That 2-week international break has felt like it's been vital, because things don't feel disjointed anymore. Obviously, Riedewald's come in, Bamford's come in, and it's been a bit of a lift. There's not as much, it doesn't feel as disjointed as we knew it has. And I think that the club's been fractured for a long time, and we're starting to see Wilder start to seal that. Obviously, I think the Steel City derby win is actually much more significant than anyone could actually probably imagine, because that confidence, that happiness I've spoke about already, is already there. It's all there, and that's what's drilling into the players, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we should get too carried away, because it's got to be said they haven't had to do a whole lot to get these 2 wins, because Wednesday were crap at the weekend and Portsmouth were down to 10 men for more than half the game. But wins breed confidence. Sheffield United were very low on that, and so these last 2 results could be huge in the grand scheme of the season, and maybe they have turned a corner now. We'll certainly wait and see. Let's get on to this pretty mad story which broke on Tuesday night, Justin. So it was reported firstly by the Daily Mail that a party contacted Sheffield Wednesday's administrators about potentially merging the 2 Sheffield clubs. The Telegraph then followed up this report by stating that Sheffield United's owners made an inquiry about taking over Sheffield Wednesday. Now, whether they were the party who suggested the merger, that might not necessarily be the case. That's not what's been reported. However, if they have indeed made an inquiry, you can make your own conclusions from that. But Sheffield United's owners did put out a statement on Tuesday where they didn't deny anything. So what have we made of all this in the past 48 hours, Justin?
I admire the ballsiness of it. Do you know what I mean? It's why not? Why not? Do you know? You just go into it.
I can think of a lot of reasons why not, to be honest. But you do you.
It's that level of ignorance, which I would like that, because if they've got that level of ignorance to something so massive, look, if there's a city where this is impossible, it's Sheffield. There's hatred like this. It's impossible to merge 2 clubs.
Now I want you to know what city you think it is possible in.
I generally think it's possible in Manchester, because I think I do. I think a lot of the fans now in Manchester are tourists, and you can clip that. Guys, go for it. That'll do the numbers. I genuinely do think that. I mean, Liverpool and Everton fans sit together, but I won't go there. But I do think it's possible in Manchester.
But the thing is, if they're not outright denying it in a statement just hours after these reports broke, that is only going to be fanning the flames. So, yeah, it's not good. It's not a good look. Unsurprisingly, a set of owners owning two clubs in the same division won't be allowed anyway. And I think a merger is definitely a non-starter. So what's actually happened here, we perhaps may never know. But it's been great fun reading all the reactions online over the past few days. Let's go to Stoke City, who are back up to second with a 3-0 win at home to Charlton. Another meeting with Nathan Jones and a former side, and another thumping. It's not been a good few days for him, has it?
Yeah, to concede 8 goals in 90 minutes of football to your football team, your former teams, is a rough one, obviously, losing the Southampton game and then being 3-0 down within 45 minutes. But I think it was always going to be a difficult one because it's the way Stoke started this game. I think any team would have struggled. They really flew out the traps. Scoring 2 in the first 5 minutes, you'd be shitting yourself as a Charlton fan, having gone there, having watched your team concede 5 in 43 minutes at the weekend. So, yeah. Fair play, Charlton fans who made that trip. I don't think you'd make that mistake again, would you? That was a rough one, but yeah, Nathan Jones, not in a great position when you see your ex, are you?
No. You see 2 X's in the past few days, and
rough.
in both occasions, you've slipped over and fell straight onto your face. But yeah, Charlton have been surprisingly terrible over these last 2 games. They've been pretty solid all season, haven't they? Mm-hmm. And had been one of the sides I've been the most impressed by. But out of nowhere, they've been really bad. And who have they got this weekend after conceding 8 goals in 2 games, Justin? Coventry away. So, best of luck, lads. But 2 of Stoke's goals in this game came from Sorba Thomas crossing it and it flying into the net. And I'm assuming you're not crediting him with meaning either of them, Justin?
I don't know, because it's Sorba Thomas. It's just what he does. I don't think he can shoot. He just crosses the ball. So any intention of him scoring,
the only way he's going to score is what you're saying by accidentally crossing it in. Okay,
I think it's like, right, I'm going to measure this up. It's going to go near the goal. If it goes in, it goes in. Boom. And it's done it twice. But just goes to show how good of a signing it's been this season. That's all I can say on that one.
Well, I'm prepared to have a nibble of humble pie here, I think, with Stoke, because I think they have been really good in these last 3 games, despite losing 2 of them. And yes, 2 of their goals in this game did come from wayward crosses, and Charlton were also extraordinarily bad, but they were much the better side. Away at Leicester at the weekend, they were also the better side and definitely didn't deserve to lose. And against Coventry just before the international break, they went properly toe-to-toe with the best team in the league so far and were unlucky to lose. Over the course of the season, I do think they have been on the fortunate side of results, but similarly with Coventry, if they keep getting results out of it, then it doesn't matter, especially if these last few games mean they're showing that they've got gears to go. So, look, fair play to Mark Robbins. He continues to have Stoke battling around the automatics. We'll remind everyone the Championship's stupid this season, so they're only 6 points off 15th, and everything can change very quickly. But what do you think the limit is for Stoke, Justin? Is the automatics possible this season with them, do you think?
I think it's difficult to say. I really do, because I can see Southampton and Ipswich muscling their way back into things. But, can Stoke really push on and compete at that level, at the automatics level? I don't know. I think you look at this, they did score a couple of strange goals, didn't they, with Sorba Thomas. Mainhoff's took his goal brilliantly, but Stoke defended well. But did I learn anything from them going forward? Not really. What I did learn is that what things I already knew. They're a solid, well-organised side who are really good at managing games. Does that convince me that automatics is on the card? Not yet. I need to see a little bit more going forwards, which I know is rich coming after a 3-0 win. But yeah, a clinical striker who's going to score 10-15, that's what you need to finish in the top 2, as well as others contributing around him. That's really what you need. But look, it's year 1 of rebuild from under Mark Robbins, and it's going really, really, really well. And I can't really criticise it because they've been exceptional this season.
Swansea's new manager, Vitor Matos, didn't enjoy a happy first day in the job. They were beaten 2-1 at home by Derby. Yeah, I think old Vitor has been given a good idea of the job he's got in his hands with this game, Justin.
Yeah, I'd be pretty peeved if I was Matos, because I thought Swansea were really poor, and he's only had 1 session. It's worth bearing that in mind. But Derby only had 27% possession. Didn't have to do a lot to win this game, which, arguably has been the story of the season for Swansea. Derby had 32 touches in the Swansea box with 27% possession. Swansea had 19 in Derby's box. like
That's
territorially.
good going, isn't it? The math doesn't seem to math there.
No, like what? Still, like what are you doing with the ball? And I say this is not on Matos at all, but I think from a Derby point of view, it was a good performance. But Swansea, if they'd have just upped their game, I think 10 or 15%, they would have got a result here. Because, like I said, I don't think Derby had to work hard to score their goals. I thought Derby's performance was really, really good, but I don't think they had to deal with a hell of a lot from Swansea, and that's what I'm being critical of here. Swansea were just poor, bland again, and the goal flattered them, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. It's Derby's third away win in a row and their sixth win in 7 games. So the mighty Rams continuing to love life, and this was probably their most comfortable win of that run. I'm not sure I necessarily agree that if Swansea were 10% better, they would have got a result, because I think that's how comfortable Derby were, really. Because, yeah, it was definitely more the same, really, from Swansea. All the possession in the world. What did they have to show for it? Nothing, really. Derby were more than happy to let them have it, and Swansea did eventually score late on with a brilliant strike from Ethan Galbraith, but they created very little else. Now, we can't blame Vitor Matos, because he was literally appointed the day before this game. But that's the number one thing he's got to resolve here, isn't it? How to stop this team being so blunt, despite having all the possession in the world, Justin.
Yeah, you identified after the game that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of getting the ball into the final third, because they're getting in good areas, but the killer ball is missing. The incisiveness is missing. The pass that comes before the final pass isn't there, if that makes sense. You know, the pre-assist, if you like. They're not getting into those positions, or they're not making those right decisions, and that comes with coaching those scenarios. And I think Matos will get that. It's just whether or not you don't really have time, and this is the worst time, I think, to be appointed as a manager of any club in the Championship, because what time is Matos going to work with his players over the next 7 or 8 weeks? There's no time at all. So he's really got to be clear in his messaging, because I don't fear for them massively, but I can see Sheffield United improving. Norwich are a head case. We'll get onto those in a moment, but I do wonder whether or not they can get dragged into a battle for relegation, which is not what you need when you spend a lot of money from a Swansea point of view.
Mm-hmm. Well, you say you fear about it. I'm just looking at the table now. I think I'd already be fearing about it, as opposed to them getting dragged into anything. But I've just looked, and the last 5 games where Swansea had less possession than the opposition, they won 3 of them, including against Nottingham Forest. The only one of those games where they lost was against Man City. So when they're not in that mindset where they have to retain possession as much as possible, they can be a decent side. And as far as I'm aware, Vitor Matos wants to play possession football, but there's a difference between looking after the ball and possession for possession's sake. Swansea are definitely leaning more to the latter right now, and that's what Matos has to resolve, because they're hovering.
Slipknot, Ryan.
Slipknot. We've been over this. Slipknot would not be a good idea with this team. You could still be Sabrina Carpenter, Justin, while having a bit of productivity about it. But yeah, as I was saying with Swansea, they're hovering dangerously close to the relegation zone, and things need to improve pretty quickly. Justin, 5 in 10. Name 5 Tom Hanks films.
Oh, Castaway, Toy Story, Toy Story 1, Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3,
cheating.
Toy Story 4.
I
can carry on. Catch Me If You Can. No, I'm now off keel here. Philadelphia. No, that's I can't believe you've taken that away from me. That's ridiculous.
You can't just name all the Toy Story films. That's cheating.
That's not cheating.
I'm not having that.
That's called
all.
Playing the system.
Fine, okay. You're playing the system, but it's also very, very naughty. I expected better from you. Let's go to Norwich City, who were just seconds away from their first win since August, but a 95th minute equaliser by Oxford saw them draw 1-1. When you looks out, you looks out.
Yeah.
And Norwich's luck is really out right now.
Yeah, confident team takes the win, but the goal they conceded, it's the type of goal they conceded all season. And you say luck, Ryan, but when you give someone as much room as Christoph had to score, you're going to have problems. It's not luck, that's laziness. That's the type of goal Norwich have conceded so often this season, where they just leave opposition with more space than you should leave opposition to score against you. I just think the mentality amongst the players is so weak, and Philippe Clement's got such a big job on his hands to turn it around. I do worry. I'm increasingly getting worried that actually this group of players is it's shit. It's not that good. And that's me being really blunt about it, because there's no other way of describing Norwich other than being shit now. But I genuinely think these players aren't good enough that they've signed. That's the main worry, and they spent a lot of money doing it.
Well, we've said that loads of times, haven't we? Ever since, covering the downfall of Norwich over the past few weeks. They missed so many chances, though, in this game to put the game to bed, and Oxford offered very little up until the equaliser. The best chance fell to Josh Sargent just after half-time. And I just think a few months ago, that would have been Josh Sargent's bread and butter. But now he looks a shadow of that player. So Norwich have got no one to blame for themselves for not getting this done and dusted. This is a team that's very used to losing. And when they've got as used to it as they have done, it's very hard to shake off. And that's why Philippe Clement's come in. His first job is to rebuild confidence. And he's certainly got his methods of trying to do so, hasn't he? That's in reference to Matai Jurasek, Justin, who came on as a sub, but was then substituted off again after just 15 minutes with no sign of an injury. Clement said, yeah, that's on me. I need to make big decisions already with not knowing everything. Matai was sick last week, so he trained the last 2 days and he did well in the training sessions. Maybe he forced himself also there for me in this game. He didn't have enough energy to do the job offensively and defensively. Either way, Jurasek didn't look too chuffed, did he?
Yeah, you wouldn't be, would you? Any self-respecting footballer would. I think that's the worst thing you can experience as a player.
Oh yeah, it's the most embarrassing thing that can happen, isn't it?
Yeah, other than a career-ending injury, so obviously that's terrible. But
it's not embarrassing, though, is it?
No, it's not embarrassing. Definitely.
My leg's fallen off. How humiliating!
It depends how it falls off, I guess. But it's to cost as much as he did as well, which is that's not on him. That's on Ben Napper. I think it's brutal. It is brutal. But like I said, I don't think this group of players that have been assembled at Norwich are anywhere near the standard they need to be. I don't think they're that good, and that's the worry. And when you're taking the player off 15 minutes after coming on, poorly or not, is really, really concerning about what happens next for Norwich, because I respect Philippe Clement for doing that and fronting it and owning it. But when you do that so early in your tenure, that you can lose a dressing room quite quick doing that, and that's just an interesting facet to what he's got to deal with now. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Whether it was the right call or not, I'll bow to the superior judgment of Clement. In his defence, Norwich are defending a lead when this sub happens, and if he says Jurasek isn't running off, then fair enough. Yeah. But considering this is a 22-year-old lad who's not had a great time at all since moving to Norwich for £6 million last January. It's not the approach I take to building a player's confidence, but maybe this is an attempt to stick a rocket up his backside. Sometimes that can work. We'll certainly find out very soon, I guess. One positive to take away from this game, Justin, is Norwich's losing streak at home has finally come to an end. It was 8 defeats on the bounce at Carrow Road heading into this. So they've ended that rot, I guess. They've got QPR at home this weekend, so could they go one step better? We shall see. And finally, Wrexham are now unbeaten in 7 in the league after a 2-0 win at home to Bristol City. The Red Dragons are flying, Peachy.
Yeah, this was such a strange game. Really weird. It was so end-to-end. Bristol City had so many good chances in the first half that they should have been ahead. And then Wrexham took the dominance in the second half. But I think, look, on the face of it, it's unbeaten in 7. It's 5 clean sheets for Wrexham. That's really impressive. It deserves a lot of plaudits. Phil Parkinson has slowly adapted his side to the Championship, which is positive. But you can argue that they were quite fortunate with this one, in that Nathan Broadhead scored a banger, then they've scored a corner from a goalkeeper mistake, and then Bristol City have had a dubious goal disallowed from where I think it's Okwonko in the Wrexham goal who's.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I think it's definitely worth mentioning because it was 1-0 at the time when that happened, and it did look harsh, didn't it?
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely did. Okwonko didn't have the ball under control. He spilled it, and then it's fair game then. But I don't really know what the referee's giving it for, because he doesn't have the ball in his hands. I imagine it's because I can't remember who the Bristol City player was, but he's tackled him. But like I said, when the ball's loose like that, it's fair game. So I thought that was really, really weak officiating, if I'm going to be really blunt. And I think that could have changed the course of the game from a Bristol City point of view. But look, Wrexham didn't allow it. They shut it down.
Yeah, if you're one of those people who thinks goalkeepers are overprotected by referees, then you're definitely going to hate this decision, because it's not your classic one where there's been a little shove from across. As you say, Okonkwo's made a mess of the shot, and then while trying to smother it, a Bristol City player goes in to challenge him. And there didn't seem to be a huge amount of contact either, does there? And then the ball goes in after that. But Okonkwo starts holding his face, and when that happens, the referee seems to always blow, don't they? Referees always seem to give that when I don't really see what the infringement there is in terms of the rules. So, yeah, I think Okonkwo's definitely got away with one there, and Bristol City will count themselves very unlucky. I thought Wrexham were very good in this game, though. It's pretty amazing the chances they missed compared to the ones they scored. Because, as you say, one was from a corner, which hit the post directly from the corner and then went in off the goalkeeper's back. And then the other one was a screamer by Nathan Broadhead. But Wrexham won't care. They'll take it. And they've found some form, haven't they? As I say, unbeaten in 7 now.
Yeah, unbeaten in 7. It's the clean sheets. And I think this is where we've got to really praise Phil Parkinson, because first 7 or 8 games, they were open, they were loose. I'd have been really concerned if that form and that play would have carried on into later on in the season, because the amount of chances they were conceding and not putting away themselves. But now they have a bit more of an edge. They're clinical. Oh, they weren't clinical in this game because they missed the easier chances and scored the harder ones, if you like. But they are getting themselves into good positions constantly. Kiefer Moore is such a danger. Josh Windass had a really good chance as well, where he should have put away. So many opportunities, but like I said, the game could have been very different in the first half had Bristol City had taken those, and the referee wasn't, feeling a little bit soft, if you like. But I think with Wrexham, they're pushing it to the table. That's important, and you've got to really, really hold your hands up and go, good stuff.
Yeah, as you say, their defence was a big problem earlier in the season because they were conceding an awful lot of goals and chances, but that has really been sorted out. It was quite surprising that it was a problem anyway, considering how solid they were in League One last season. When everyone talks about Wrexham, one of the first things that's always going to be brought up is how much money they've spent. But Max Cluworth, a young defender from their academy, has been absolutely superb. He's played every single minute this season and looks a brilliant talent. I've been very, very impressed with him. And we talk about one issue with Wrexham, Justin, being how when you look at their starting 11, there isn't great quality in depth. But they've had some players missing recently, and it's not affected them that much. They haven't been the most free-flowing going forwards, but as long as you keep teams out, you're always going to get results. That's the main thing, and that's something they've definitely improved on recently. And it's 4 wins at home now on the bounce. Look at the table. 10th, 2 points off the top 6. Another thing to keep in mind is I would expect them to spend big in January. So are the playoffs on for them? You've always been a bit of a naysayer when it comes to Wrexham and the playoffs this season. So has your stance changed on them recently, Justin?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't changed. I don't think they will finish in the playoffs this season. I think there are stronger teams, and we'll start to see that over the next few weeks, especially. I think if they're without Kiefer Moore, for example, I think there's a big problem for Wrexham. And that's not to say he could play every game and it not matter at all, but it's a lot of emphasis to put on one individual. And the same with Josh Windass. I think they've got a different edge to them going forwards with Josh Windass in that team. They really, really do. There'll always be a solid defensive structure with them, and that's going to be good. But it's those games that they need to edge to win. That's where it might come up short. I'm not saying they're going to fall down the table. It's not the case. I think they'll be quite strong this season because they've shown that they can adapt and do well. But the top 6 is a bit of a push this season, even if they do spend in January.
I don't think it's out of the question. If they do spend big in January again, then that certainly gives them a lot more options and a lot more depth, which is the concern that we've had, even though it's not been as prevalent recently. So, yeah, if they are if they're in touch come January, then yeah, I think anything's possible. Assuming they do go big in Jan. I think the biggest con for me when it comes to Wrexham and a playoff finish is still, unfortunately, the manager, because I don't think I can really change my position on Phil Parkinson when he has been given so much money to work with. But look, if they do get in the playoffs, I'll hold my hands up, but I've still got major doubts of whether he's the man to satisfy their long-term ambitions, unfortunately.